All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to talk about Devin Haney, George Kambosos, and something Eddie Hearn said needs to take place in order for Devin Haney to get this George Kambosos fight. And man, it is going to dig in that young man's pocket. Let's talk about that in this video. Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. Before I get into the meat of the video though, please make sure if you're not subscribed to the channel that you hit that subscribe button and hit the bell icon and select all notifications so that you can get all of the notifications that we have for the videos that we release on the channel. Also, make sure you hit that like button, listen to the video all the way to the end. So Devin Haney and George Kambosos are the two people that have claims for titles at 135 pounds. George Kambosos holds the WBA, the WBO, the IBF, and is the WBC franchise designee, while Devin Haney holds what Mauricio Suleiman called the Pride Championship. But there's a lot of hope out there that any question about who is the WBC champion and whether or not George Kambosos is an undisputed champion can be answered when Devin Haney fights George Kambosos. And Eddie Hearn said something today about that particular subject that I found pretty interesting, which is that he believes that they can make that fight between George Kambosos and Devin Haney. However, it is going to mandate, the solution is going to mandate that somebody gives up a lot of something in order to make that fight take place. And that is Devin Haney giving up a lot of money in order to have enough room in the budget to make the fight. Eddie Hearn specifically, well, not specifically, said, look, Devin Haney has made a lot of money in his career, and he is a smart young man. He will know that it is, he will be smart enough not to price himself out of the fight with George Kambosos. Now, in the way that I interpret that means it is time to take a paycheck, a pay cut from your paycheck that you've been earning a lot of money for all these other fights that I've been giving you. But when it's time to make the really big fight with somebody that is not at Matchroom, we're not going to be able to pay you all of that money for that fight, which sounds very, very similar to something that was said by Leonard Ellerbe about making a fight with Gervonta Tank Davis and Devin Haney. Leonard Ellerbe, who was the CEO of Mayweather Promotions, when he was talking about being the criticism that Gervonta Tank Davis receives for not having fought the other guys in the division, the Devin Haneys, Teofimo Lopez. At the time, I think Teofimo Lopez was still a champion, Lomachenko and the such. Leonard Ellerbe said, look, some of these fights that you think are really big fights are not really big fights. And he said, take Devin Haney, for example. How much is Devin Haney going to want to make for fighting Gervonta Davis? What, like $5 million? He's like, look, we're not going to pay Devin Haney that much money for that fight because what he said was that they are not in the business of throwing away money like DAZN is. And he said, no, don't disrespect to Devin Haney. Devin Haney got the big check, got a great deal. And we know the background behind that. Devin Haney was one of the very first signees for DAZN when DAZN had said they had that $1 billion budget or $200 million a year, and they were going to take over boxing, and they were going to use this money to sign a lot of the top fighters, and DAZN was going to, take over boxing, right? The transatlantic takeover, I do believe, is how Eddie Hearn referred to it. But that is not the case anymore. That money is not there for DAZN anymore. And Eddie Hearn said that they were going to stop overpaying for fights. However, Devin Haney still has that same paycheck that he was getting before because they're contractually obligated to do so. But in this particular instance, Eddie Hearn is waving it out there like, look, if we're going to make this fight with George Kambosos, cannot make this fight without a paycheck and you cutting DAZN a break on how much money you're making per fight. So that is going to test Devin Haney in whether or not Devin Haney is going to be about the money or whether he's going to be about the accolades, right? Which is a very, very tough decision to make, quite honestly, because if they say for example, they try to do something where it costs him $2 million, $1 million, $2 million to get a George Kambosos fight, is it worth it? Is it worth the undisputed? Is it worth, number one, having to pay all those fees for that undisputed title on top of taking a very, very big pay cut? Is it worth it? And if it's worth it to him, yeah, he'll go in there and he'll say, okay, I'll give up all my money and I'm going to go fight for glory. Or is he going to take like what Gervonta Davis says? Like, look, man, I'm a prize fighter. I don't want to pay for all those sanctioning fees. And what Leonard Ellerbe says, look, man, I'm not going to be overpaying people for fights. So pretty much, if you think of it this way, in order for Devin Haney to get that fight, what Eddie Hearn is saying is, look, dude, you're going to have to give us some of that money back. You're going to pretty much have to pay DAZN out of your expected earnings in order to get it. And I just don't know, man, if that's necessarily a smart move for Devin Haney. First of all, you'd be going all the way over there to Australia to fight in a situation that is dubious to begin with. Fighting in Australia, and Devin Haney is not a knockout artist. If he fights over there in George Kambosos' territory and they get funny with a couple things happen, George Kambosos is better than I think he is, because I think Devin Haney will beat him in a boxing match all day. But I'm telling you, you see how that Mark Kambosos, Mark Magsayo fight went, and how people start scoring fights. They score a lot of activity. So if George Kambosos is out there trying to make the fight, going forward, trying to throw punches, and Devin Haney is just pot-shotting from the outside, dude, that is a ticket to get robbed out there in Australia. So do you want to, while you're risking that to begin with, do you always want to risk that and risk a whole lot of money to do it? It will be interesting, man. And if he doesn't, and it's a tough situation politically too, because Eddie Hearn is out in public saying, look, Devin Haney got to take a paycheck to make this fight happen. That's the only way that it'll work, right? If he's not willing to do that, then he can't claim that George Kambosos ducked him. That would be a case of Devin Haney ducking him if he does not take that situation. Now, you look at somebody like Terrence Crawford, who was also in a similar situation with Errol Spence Jr., and Terrence Crawford's flat out telling you, nah, man, I'm not taking some gigantic pay cut for that. You're going to have to pay me what that fight is worth for me to do that, right? But Terrence Crawford has got a little bit of, he's already become an undisputed champion and has been a long time champion in boxing. Eddie Hearn is trying to sell to Devin, hey, man, you go out there, this will make you a superstar overnight if you get these 4 belts. Dude, that is not necessarily true, because Josh Taylor got 4 belts at 135 pounds. And dude, he is not any bigger he's not any bigger star than Devin Haney is. Did not make him a superstar. Alexander Usyk became an undisputed champion at cruiserweight. That did not make him a superstar. Terrence Crawford became an undisputed champion at 140 pounds. That did not make him a superstar, man. So it's just going to be interesting to see how Devin Haney's going to play it, whether or not he's going to take the pay cut for an opportunity to get the belts, or whether or not he say, look, man, this game is a little too rich for my blood. No, I'm going to take my guarantees, and maybe I'll go to 140 and, like he said, fight somebody like Antoine Russell, right? But anyway, we'll see what happens. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.